Afternoon, guys. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. What I thought we'd do today, in like a next part in our build series on this camping vehicle, for lack of a better term, is talk about power units. I received this Jackery actually for review, so full disclosure there. And they sent me the 1500 model. Now, they make smaller models than that, but this is the 1500 model, and it's the biggest Jackery that they make right now at the time of release of this video. It weighs about 33 pounds. It's fairly lightweight to market comparisons for something this size. Its dimensions we'll go over a little bit in the video in a little while, but the power of this is why I think this is probably the better choice for something like vehicle camping a little bit longer term, more days, more time, more power needed to power different types of appliances and different types of electronics. And we'll talk about that as we go along. It's not going to be too much of a technical discussion. I like to stay in my lane, so I'll leave the technical stuff to the technical guys. And I'm just going to give you the nuts and bolts of what I've found out from using this thing for a little over a month now. And we also have been using it down at the base camp at the Pathfinder School for all the instructors to charge their devices to use to run lighting and things like that down in the school classroom at night. So it's a pretty good unit, and I've used it quite a bit. So let's talk through that right now real quick. Okay, so first of all, I do have a few notes jotted down here for the more technical side of things. And some of the measurements and things like that I wrote down before I came out here. So first of all, obviously this is the Jackery 1500 Explorer, all right? It has a warranty that comes with it, but if you fill out the warranty card, you can get an extended warranty for this thing up to 3 years. It weighs 32.3 pounds, so it's a pretty hefty load. The measurements on this thing are 12.5 by 14 by about 10.5. Operating temperature is 14 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That's give or take, right? If it gets too hot, you're gonna need to cool this thing down, keep it in the shade. If it's getting too cold, you need to get somewhere where it's not gonna be so cold, because it really won't operate well, or at least take a charge well, below 32 degrees Fahrenheit from what I understand. As far as the charge time of this thing, charging it from a brick, which we'll talk about in a minute, plugging it into the wall, into AC, you're talking about 4.5 hours from dead to about 80%, 90%. On 12 volt power plugged into your vehicle running, you're looking at 15 hours. All right, so you can see right now, I'm getting 207, 208 watts of charging. Get that back on. And that's from 2 solar panels plugged into one single pigtail here on the roof of my Jeep. In pretty much full sun right now. It's a cloudy day. Pretty much full sun, but I got 2 panels on top of my roof. If you have 4 panels, and I only have 2 on here now, but it's capable of running 400 watt panels, which is more wattage than it's capable of taking in at one shot, but it will peak out and it won't take any more. You're not going to overcharge it. With 4 panels, it takes about 3 hours to charge this thing up. And you can see in the footage I showed a minute ago with 2 panels, it's getting over 200 watts input from 200 watt panels. Okay, so you've got a Panasonic lithium battery in here. You can put 1800 watts of draw on that thing continuous, about double that with surge. So it runs a lot of appliances that you may want to run, especially if you're car camping with your wife, something like that, where she needs to run a blow dryer, curling iron, things like that. If she wants to look nice around camp, so be it. You can run it with this bad boy. If you got to run a refrigerator, something like that, like this ice coat that we're running back here in the back, it'll run that thing for hours and hours and hours just off this battery. Probably about 90-ish hours on that refrigerator. However, you can also charge this thing on the go while it is powering something, and that's kind of something that's different with this Jackery 1500 is. It works well to be able to charge it while you're actually charging something else. So if you're driving, you've got this thing plugged into the DC outlet in your cigarette lighter, you're charging the unit while it's running something like your refrigerator, and you can have continuous run time and charge the battery at the same time without having to disconnect to do those things. 2 solar panels is what they recommend, 200 watt solar panels, which gives you over 200 watts of input, like I showed on here, in full sun. And that will charge it up in about 9 hours. You can cut that in half if you double up and put 4 solar panels on there, 400 watt solar panels. Okay, so just a quick up close here. You can see right now, we've got 201 watts going in, 83% charge, nothing going out because we have nothing plugged in. We have a USB-C port and 2 USB ports, one of them being a Qualcomm 3.0. You've got 3 AC ports, and you have a 12 volt. Now, you have switches to turn these on. You really don't need to have them turned on if you're not using them, especially the AC ports, because there is an inverter in there that will constantly draw power. If you leave this on, it will constantly draw on the battery. So you don't really want to turn these on unless you're using them. However, this USB-C is a key element if you're using new electronics. If you're using things like iPhones, iPads, MacBook Pros, any kind of new drones and things like that, camera equipment, you're going to want that USB-C port. The good thing about the AC input ports is that you can run regular appliances, like I said, that you may have with you, like a curling iron or blow dryer for your wife. What I do with this is I carry a small hot plate in case I'm out of fuel or in case I'm in a big hurry, in case I just want to hook something up to get the wife a cup of coffee real fast. I can plug a hot plate in this bad boy that is 110, and it does draw on the battery because it pulls a lot of wattage, but it boils water fairly quickly. And again, she can use her curling iron and her blow dryer. And one thing to remember with this is you don't want to force this thing to be converting power because you're going to lose charging power doing that. So if you've got like a MacBook Pro, you don't want to plug the AC adapter into this thing. You want to plug straight into the USB port or the USB-C port, because you are converting back and forth between AC and DC power doing that, and you don't want that. You want to go straight with the DC power if you've got a DC device. Same thing with here. If you're using a DC refrigerator or something like that, you want to plug it straight into the DC port. You don't want to try to convert it over and then back, because it's going to lose efficiency that way. So that's important to understand with these things. Okay, so you get a nice user's manual here that tells you how to set the thing up, how to run charging in series. Gives you a little bit about how long it will run certain devices. You can see there on a 60 watt car fridge, 90 hours, 130 minutes on a toaster, 50 minutes on a blow dryer. I'll tell your wife to hurry up. May take you some time to charge that bad boy back up. But there's a lot of good information in here from Jackery that comes along with this that tells you how to set it up. So that's a really nice user-friendly manual. Now there's one little slicky thing I should show you here that's kind of important to understand. And somehow I don't have mine with me. It's probably at the school in the classroom area. But one thing that you get in the package that I showed you in that neoprene bag is you get an adapter that actually changes this plug from one diameter center pin to the other. And the reason for that is these solar panels are not the same size as the inputs for the Jackery 1500. The actual 1500 has a thicker pin than the solar panel does. So if you try to plug that solar panel in without the pigtail on it, or without the adapter, if you're using a single solar panel, it will not charge the Jackery. Now the other thing that won't work is you can't plug one solar panel into this pigtail and plug it in. You're still going to get 0 watts input. So this pigtail has to have 2 solar panels plugged into it to operate correctly. So if you only have one solar panel, you're definitely going to need that adapter, even if you've got this pigtail, because it won't work that way. You need at least 2 solar panels on the pigtail. And if you don't use the pigtail adapter for the solar panels, you have to have a single adapter for a single solar panel that goes into this charging port. Okay, let's do something that's kind of real world here. We'll fill up some water here. And we'll put enough water in here for a couple cups of coffee. This is a 48 ounce cup. We'll put about 16 ounces in here. Okay, so we got about, Right at 16 ounces on the measurement marker. Good. Pretty good eyeballing. Now, this is one of the reasons I love this Jackery. This is a hot plate right off Amazon. Thing was like 10 bucks. I can throw this in. It doesn't have much weight or bulk to it. And if for some reason I'm out of fuel, or if for some reason I'm in a hurry, I can just plug this dude in to the Jackery, turn my power on, fan comes on, plug that bad boy in, put this dude on 4, which is high gear, and get some water on there. And it is about 22 minutes after 2 o'clock right now. We'll see how long it takes to boil that water. Also important to note is we're starting at 85% charge right now, but we're charging with the solar panels as we're using this device. So let's see what happens there. Okay, here she comes up to the boil right now. And it's about 37. So 15 minutes. 2 cups of coffee. Let's see where we're at on power over here. Okay, we're at 79%. So we drew about 6% of the battery on that. And pulling about 456 watts. Good, rolling boil there. So now we can just shut this bad boy off. We're in good shape. 0 watts output. Turn that off. See what we got. Holding at 79%. It'll charge at 161 watts. Good. Okay, so for me, that small demo right there, knowing that I can carry a very small hot plate, throw it in my deck system. I've got the Jackery pretty much handy. If I'm on the fly and I want to eat something really quick, a just add water meal, stowaway gourmet, something like that, we only need 8 ounces of water, 7.5 minutes, I'm eating food. I don't need fuel. I don't need to worry about it. All I got to do is keep this Jackery charged, and it's going to run most of what I want. And that is the reason that I wanted to convert to solar power from a generator. So I had that convenience when I'm out, because I'm not always going to want to break out a stove. I'm not always going to want to cook with propane. I'm not always going to want to start a fire. That small hot plate is good enough for the Pathfinder skillet. If I want to cook a skillet of eggs on that thing in the morning, I could do it without having to break out the stove, the propane tank, and all that stuff, or even get out a jet boil. That thing is much more convenient than a jet boil. Plug it in, turn it on, rock and roll. Inside, you can see that there is, I believe you guys can see that, there's a USB-C and a USB port inside there connected to this cord, so that you can actually plug an electronic device into that and charge off this panel all by itself without plugging it into the Jackery if you want to use it just for a solar charger for some electronic device. Well, guys, I appreciate you joining me out here today for just a quick review of this Jackery 1500 and kind of some of my mentality as far as why I'm carrying a solar power unit instead of carrying a generator in this build with my Gladiator. So this will be part 2 in the video series. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your views. I appreciate everything you do for school, for family, for business, for all our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.